Have you ever tried to read the Bible right from the beginning, only to get kind of bogged down in all the details? Well, what if I told you that the first 5 books aren't just a random collection of stories? What if they're actually the action-packed opening chapter of one single grand narrative? So today, let's unpack that story, what we could call the unfolding promise, and see how it all beautifully fits together.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big picture, the foundation of everything. Then we'll walk through each book. We'll see the promise being made in Genesis, a people redeemed in Exodus, a holy God dwelling in Leviticus, a generation tested in Numbers, and finally, a covenant renewed in Deuteronomy. We're going to chart a course from the very beginning of creation right to the edge of the Promised Land.
Okay, let's set the stage. If we're going to get a handle on these ancient texts, we have to see them as one unified story. It's the groundwork, the foundation for everything, and I mean everything that follows.
Think about it. How do you start a story that's going to shape entire cultures and thousands of years of history? Well, for the Bible, the answer is right here. In the Pentateuch, it's the foundational narrative, starting with the book of beginnings itself.
And that, of course, brings us to Genesis. Now, this isn't just a book about Adam and Eve or Noah's Ark. It's so much more. It's the place where the central promise, the promise that drives the entire biblical story, is first put on the table.
Let's just walk through the major beats, right? It kicks off with creation. Then, boom, the fall. Humanity's relationship with God is shattered, but right away, there's a hint of a rescue plan, a promised seed. This vague idea gets a name and a face when God makes an absolutely unbreakable promise to a man named Abraham. And the book closes with his family in Egypt, perfectly positioned for the next chapter of the story.
So if you take away one thing from Genesis, it's this: the stage is now set. There's a creator God who has a plan to bless the entire world, and that whole plan is going to unfold through the family line of one man. This is the setup for everything to come. And this verse right here, this is the heart of it all. This promise to Abraham is the red thread you can trace through the rest of the Bible. It's the engine that's going to drive this entire story forward.
So how does this incredible promise actually start to play out? Well, that takes us to Exodus. If Genesis is where the promise is made, Exodus is the blockbuster story of God acting on that promise for Abraham's descendants, who, by the way, are now slaves in Egypt.
What we're watching here is a high-stakes rescue mission. God hears the cries of his people, he unleashes these devastating plagues on their oppressors, and then redeems them through the blood of the Passover lamb. And he doesn't just free them, he delivers them with this incredible display of power at the Red Sea, and then personally meets them at Mount Sinai to forge them into a nation.
This line is the pivot point of the whole book. The Passover is the central act of redemption. It's a powerful picture of salvation through the blood of a substitute, and it's a theme that's going to echo all the way through the biblical story. Okay, so after the epic rescue of Exodus, we hit Leviticus. And let's be honest, this book can feel like a really dense legal manual, but it's actually answering a super important question. How can a perfectly holy God live right in the middle of a sinful, imperfect people?
The answer is this huge concept called atonement. It's basically the process for making things right again. And Leviticus says it plainly. It is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul. This idea, that a sacrifice can cover for sin, is the key to how that broken relationship between God and humanity can actually be restored.
So a great way to think of Leviticus is as the instruction manual for this newly redeemed nation. It lays out the entire system, the sacrifices, the priesthood, the cleanliness laws, that provides the framework for their relationship with the holy God who is now living in their camp.
And this is the book's constant refrain, its heartbeat. The people who belong to God are called to reflect his character. It's a call to be set apart, to be different in every single area of life. So, the people have been rescued and they've been given away to live with God. But now comes the test. The book of Numbers is the story of their journey through the wilderness, and it's a period of intense trial and, frankly, a lot of failure.
You know, the book of Numbers is really a story of stark contrast. On one side, you have Israel's constant failure. They're grumbling, they're rebelling, they refuse to trust God, and it gets them sentenced to 40 years of wandering. But on the other side, you see God's unwavering faithfulness. Even in the middle of their rebellion, he gives them this beautiful priestly blessing, he provides healing through the bronze serpent, and he even uses a foreign prophet, Balaam, to confirm that his promises are unbreakable.
And this is the key takeaway from their whole time in the wilderness. Despite the people messing up again and again, God's character and his promises are rock solid. His plan is not going to be derailed by human failure. This brings us to the grand finale of the Pentateuch, the Book of Deuteronomy. The generation that failed in the wilderness, they've passed away. Now, Moses stands before the next generation, right on the very edge of the Promised Land, to deliver his final epic appeal. Deuteronomy is basically a series of powerful farewell sermons. Moses goes over the law again, but this time the emphasis is all on the heart. He lays out this stark choice: blessing for obedience, curses for disobedience. And he gives them incredible hope, promising a future time when God will change their hearts from the inside out, and even pointing to a great prophet who is still to come.
And this is the climax of the entire 5-book journey. It's a direct, powerful, and absolutely timeless challenge. The choice is laid bare. And it's not just for ancient Israel, right? It's a question that echoes down through the ages.
So let's just recap the whole journey, shall we? It all starts in Genesis with a promise. That promise leads to a great redemption in Exodus. That redemption requires a new way of life, holiness, which is all laid out in Leviticus. That new life is then tested in the wilderness in Numbers. And finally, the whole covenant is renewed for a new generation in Deuteronomy before they enter the land. See how it flows?
When you see it this way, it's so clear that these aren't just 5 separate books. They are 5 acts in a single epic drama. Together, they lay the entire foundation for the rest of the Bible, launching a story of God's unfolding promise to His people.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. The stage is set, the people are standing at the border, and the promise is waiting to be fulfilled. With the entire foundation now laid, what do you think happens next?